Good evening, my fellow Riz Elite members. This is Chris with Riz International, and this is your weekly market recap. First off, I want to thank everybody for remaining flexible last weekend. I want to apologize for my lack of internet at the house. Literally 5 minutes before webinar started, I lose internet. I reset the router like 5 times trying to get this thing going. Can't do it. I call tech support. They're like, yeah, there's an outage in your area. We'll have it back up in 24 hours. I'm like, okay, great. 24 hours come and go and no internet. I had no internet for the rest of the weekend, actually. And we didn't get it back until Monday afternoon, about 1 o'clock. And, you know, if you work from home like I do, it makes your Monday a little bit stressful when you have no internet when you wake up to do your work in the morning. So I want to thank everybody for being chill about webinar last week. I do apologize. It's not something that we have to deal with very frequently, but it does happen now and then. So just want to thank everybody for that. So we do have about 2 weeks worth of material to discuss, and everybody was freaking out, right? Everybody was freaking out at the end of last week. It's like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. It's all over. Here comes the crash. And well, then last week happened, and we made a new all-time high on the S&P 500 on Friday afternoon. Hit there 4286.12 is our new all-time high on the S&P 500. Nice little correction here and a great bounce, really respecting my support lines there. So obviously somebody in the chat has been telling the market makers where I put my support and resistance lines, because clearly the market listens, is really all I can say. But yeah, really just kind of respecting the 50 moving average here. We did push down below it and closed last Friday, but man, Monday was a huge green day for the market, and it just kept going. Obviously, the Fed announcement on Tuesday was pretty much a non-issue. I'm a little bummed that Riz isn't going to be here, because I was going to ask him about his track day, because that looked really cool. So for everybody in Elite, make sure you check in all the pictures and the videos that Riz is posting from his track day. It's really cool, him taking the car out. But yeah, there's basically a non-issue with the Fed announcement. Market really didn't care at all, and we just kept grinding higher and higher into Friday. And like I said, we made a new all-time high on the S&P 500. Energy was kind of leading the decline here last week, the week before, taking a steep nosedive, but then making a great rebound this week. Most of the market sectors kind of followed suit with that. Real estate didn't move all that much, though financials definitely took a bit of a dip and is starting to rebound this week with the market as well. Here's that dip that we saw that pushed back down to support, and the rebound back off of it. Tech, healthcare, and utilities still underperforming the S&P 500, though both up, all 3 of them up on the year, with tech and healthcare in the double digits, while utilities is trailing just below 5% up on the year. Real estate, financials, and energy are crushing it this year. Energy up 45.79%. That is ridiculous. That is higher than I believe tech made it back in 2020. And 2020 was definitely a year for tech, that is for sure. Financials and real estate sitting right around the 26, 27 percentile area, doing very, very well in the year so far. Oil has been on an absolute tear here ever since about May. Moving into the summer, we just keep grinding higher and higher. Now, of course, Riz was calling for about $60 to $70 per barrel. We're currently over that at the moment. We're pushing 75. And we'll have to kind of see how that plays out. But really, the high we've had right now this year is sitting there at $74.25 per barrel for crude. Gold taking a massive dump last week, and then just kind of consolidating this week here. As you know, with concerns with inflation and things like that, inflation numbers, everybody's freaking out, started selling, and it caused a bit of a panic sell. And then, nice bounce off this support area here. Man, I tell you, my lines are on point. 1765.36 held very, very nicely here for gold, and really nice rebound off of that, and basically now consolidating. Again, we're not advocating buying gold at this time. Riz mentioned in the chat that his exit on the gold position that he was in several weeks ago, avoiding this catastrophe. Yeah, gold taking a bit of a price dive there, a bit of a correction, and holding here as it is. Let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin, because everybody's talking about it. Well, things not looking so hot for Bitcoin right now. Definitely all those people who were, calling it here at 64,000 are kind of hurting right now, down 50% from the highs, currently at 32,000 per coin for Bitcoin right now. Crypto been taking an absolute beating over the last few months, despite all of the hype and things like that. We're back down under my, my descending resistance line here that I drew the last time we had Riz on the show. But we are still holding here in this, this 32,000 area. This seems to be a very big support zone, a big supply zone for Bitcoin. We'll have to see if that continues to hold or if the selling continues and it hemorrhages more price, at this point. It will be interesting to watch, but we really crashed through all the moving averages. I will say that the moving averages typically don't hold much weight for cryptocurrency. At least that's been my experience. And a lot of that is probably because less algorithms than what we have in the market, if I had to guess. But yes, crypto taking a bit of a beating and really just kind of chilling out here over the weekend so far. Of course, remember, crypto is traded 24/7, 365. All right, now I have a couple of trade ideas for you guys, some things that we're going to keep an eye on. And I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised by one of these. Beyond Meat. Beyond Meat here, one that Riz has been somewhat of an advocate of shorting in the past, but it has proven to, kind of do the thing and is really consolidating nicely here on the 200 simple moving average, which I have as the gray tracing line here. That is a big area of support typically for securities like this. It is, highly respected by algorithms, by high volume traders and things like that. And you will see a lot of action over and around the 200 when the price gets close to that point. So the fact that Beyond Meat is, it is in a downtrend, I will say that right now, but it is looking like it is holding that 200 simple moving average. So that is definitely a good sign. Nice little bounce here on Friday. So we're going to be keeping an eye on this. I will say I'm a bit stunned to see this one because Riz has been quite the advocate of shorting this, like I said. But technically speaking, this setup is looking pretty good. Nice recovery post earnings here that they had in May, and really holding this 200 could be a potential long for later this week. Now, I do want to iterate for everybody watching the replay. We have not taken a position in BYND. We are considering it at this point, and it is definitely on our radar. All right, Csiq. Canadian Solar. Well, why am I not surprised that Riz is interested in this one? Canadian, if you don't know, Riz is from Canada. But really nice bounce here off support around 37.50 and starting to push through the moving averages rather strongly. I mean, this is definitely a very strong move. Volume is starting to come in here. And, this hold over 37.50 is very encouraging. Obviously, a lot of places, a lot of people talking about the need for alternative energy, moving away from fossil fuels and things like that. And this one looking like a very interesting play here. Now, I will say we do have a couple moving averages in the way, so we'll need to keep an eye on it if you do decide to take this. Again, we don't have a position in this one, but this is something that is on our radar as a potential good setup this week for a long play. And then the last one is Zillow. If anybody's ever done looking for homes, you've probably looked on Zillow before and you think your house is worth about twice as much as it really is. Zillow, again, making a nice push here, though I would say this one's a little more dicey. It is holding the 50, but we weren't able to push over the 200. You see, we kind of came and we got here close, and then we kind of came back down. So this one, it's definitely in an uptrend. It's starting to get some momentum. Volume is, sporadic, I will say. But yeah, this one is a very interesting one. We'll have to see how this behaves on Monday going into this week. But another one you could definitely put on your watch list for this week for a potential long entry, and seeing if we can get more of a recovery in this, as it does seem to have held this area here right around, I'd say 107, 108, and looks like it's starting to make the recovery, making the push back up. Maybe we start seeing that push back up towards the 140s, the 150s, and we'll definitely keep an eye on that moving into this week. So guys, those are our 3 trades that we are considering right now. I wanted to go ahead and open up the floor to questions. I know Riz said he wanted to come tonight, but he's feeling a little bit under the weather. So all our love to Riz. Hope you get feeling better soon, brother. But for everybody who is here live, I want to go ahead and open up the floor. If you guys have questions or things like that, please don't hesitate to ask. And let me take a look here because, yeah, we got into a few swing trades this week. And we can kind of go through those as well. Let me look here. Okay, looks like there's 3 that we got into. And I will go ahead and talk about those while you guys are typing in your questions. The first one is Netflix. Everybody's favorite streaming service. All right, so great technical breakout here on Netflix, busting through the moving averages like no one was even looking, without even having too much increased volume here, really holding this support area around 148, 478, 488. And really making a nice push towards the north side of 500 here. Now, I will say a bit of a pullback on Friday, but not too surprising with a gap up like that. A lot of people are going to be taking profits in that area, especially if they were buying or holding in this area. So not too surprising with that gap up there on Netflix. Definitely looking really, really good. And it has been consolidating here in this support zone for quite some time, looking like a bit of a push there. All right, Corsair is one that I am personally a fan of. I've been holding this one. I held it for quite some time. I kind of bought it in this area, and I averaged down. And once we had this pop up here, I managed to get out at a very nice price. So this is a nice one. I also am a big fan of Corsair gear in general. I am typing on a Corsair keyboard. I am using a Corsair mouse currently. Really love their products, so I definitely like this company. I have a lot of their other stuff in my personal rig. And a really nice breakout here. Push over the support area of around 31.25. We had this dump here. From what I understand, this was being pumped by Wall Street Bets, and we saw the results of that. Thank you, Wall Street Bets, for letting me get out at a very nice price and for a very nice profit. Definitely did not get me holding the bag, we'll put it that way. But that being said, nice bounce here off the 31.25 area, making a very nice technical breakout. I actually took this one long again because I am such a fan of the company. So really like this setup here, making a nice little push. If we can get some continuation here, we should be looking really, really good. Now, this next one is pretty tricky, and I want to be very careful with people getting into this one. This is Wish. Now, Riz did get assigned on these, I believe, on some short puts, if memory serves me correctly. But it has really been getting a lot of volume here over the last couple weeks. Riz has traded calls on it, and he's buying the stock for a few reasons. One, he believes basically from a fundamental standpoint it's undervalued where it is. It has huge potential, obviously, to push higher. So this could be a very high potential, high profitable trade. That being said, there is a lot of risk with it. The implied volatility is well over 200%. So, this says that, there's a lot of activity in the options market with this right now. So that can make this thing move really big if it gets going the right direction. If Riz's calls get called away, then he's still going to get out for a profit. So that's a good thing for him too. That's not much of a concern for most of us here. But yes, be very, very careful with this one. This has the potential to move very large in either direction. So Riz got in on this one on 14.10, and that one went really, really good. Okay. Yas wants me to look at, okay, let me take a look at those tickers. I'm not too familiar with these. So su.to, no. You just want like Suncor on TSX? Is that it? Okay, cool. All right, Suncor Energy making a pretty nice move here. Obviously, has been benefiting from the energy push this year. Very nice uptrend on this one so far. Looking really solid at this point. Let's see here. I'm curious if we just kind of ignore that. See how well that lines up. Not as nice as I'd like. Okay, we'll put you back there. This one, not looking too bad. I would say we're definitely looking like we're kind of in the middle of no man's land here, which is a little bit dicey as far as timing and entry. If you were going to take this one long at this point, then I would definitely go with reduced size, so you have the ability to average down if necessary. If we do see a bit of a dump here before it starts to rebound and push back up, that could be a good way to do it. And yeah, I mean, I kind of like it here. It's not too bad, to be honest with you. Seems pretty solid. All right, AQN on the TSX. For those of you who are not familiar, TSX is the Canadian Stock Exchange. So this one looks like it doesn't move all that much. This is also a lower dollar stock, so I'd be a little careful with this one. This is Algonquin Power and Utilities. So yeah, I mean, this one doesn't move all that much. That's my concern, at least intraday. I mean, long term, you can definitely see some. I would be interested to see what this gap down was caused by. I'd need to dig into that a little bit more. That being said, it seems to be consolidating here. So if this consolidation continues, it's going to break one direction or the other eventually. And the big question is when. Looks like X dividend gets delivered on the 29th. So that could be, definitely a nice little spot to get in here fairly soon. It's definitely, always nice to get free money for holding stocks. So dividends are definitely a plus. So if you get in on this one on Monday, you should be qualified for that dividend on Tuesday. So it could be definitely a decent one to jump in on if you want to collect that dividend. And if you like it, I could definitely see it going. That being said, let's take a look here at the overall trend. Let's back it out. So really big rally here in 2019 into 2020. Has had a bit of a rough year in 2020, as most stocks did. Been doing pretty decent in 2021, but we're in a bit of a downtrend now for this one. So this one, it's a dicey entry. If you're not looking to hold like super long, I think it could definitely work. But for the time being, I mean, we're definitely, pushing towards the south side of the price action here. So let's see if I can get these lined up nicely. We'll call it a day right there. So definitely moving towards the downside right now on this one. So I would be careful. Also, we're below the moving averages, which makes things a little more tricky, but it's not terrible if this consolidation continues. If it continues to break down and go lower, I wouldn't hold, but it's definitely something you can keep an eye on. All right, AC on the TSX. Air Canada. Wow, Air Canada taking a bit of a beating here. Would have to look into that and see if there's a reason for that. I would not recommend trying to catch the knife on this one. This looks like a straight knife catch to me. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 red days in a row. Ooh, that's a straight knife catch, my man. I would not be jumping in on this one until I saw somewhat of a retracement towards the north side of things. We want the jet to take off, not to crash. And right now the jet is crashing. So don't end up in a plane wreck. I've heard it usually doesn't end well for the people on the plane. So I would hold off on Air Canada right now. Until we see some defined recovery in it, I wouldn't recommend jumping in on this one. If you want to try and knife catch it, you can, but I would just be really careful. Of the three, I liked SU the best. It'd probably be my pick. Okay, long on Etsy. Let's take a look. Etsy making a nice recovery here. Obviously a higher dollar stock, so definitely something to keep an eye on. Let me take a drink here for dramatic effect. Made a nice push over the 200 simple moving average, making a nice push over the 50 and looking to reclaim the 90 as well. So, definitely the breakout is happening here on Etsy. The question is, how far does it go? So the breakout was definitely here when we pushed over the 200 simple moving average, and it's been going ever since. Might be a decent entry. You could look for a potential pullback before you get in to try and get in at a better price. But if you want to go for it now, I can definitely get behind that if that's something you want to do. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely on the breakout. So, looking pretty decent. All right. Is SWN good for a long? Southwest Energy Company. This is a penny stock. I wouldn't recommend trading stuff like this. That's my first advice for you. I would steer clear of penny stocks like this because they can be highly manipulated and because you can just get blown out. And I mean, look at all this volume that it had. 38 million here and it barely moved at all. What's the average on this one? About 13 million per day. I would be a little dicey on this one. I mean, a great bounce here off the 50 moving average, as you can see, but I don't know. We're kind of pushing here towards the most recent high, which is 583 ish. So I would be careful with SWN. I wouldn't recommend it personally, but if it's something that you trade that and you're familiar with this company, I mean, it looks like they had decent earnings. Just the price is pretty bad. Yeah, we typically don't trade stocks like this, so I'd be really careful. Be really careful on that one. What are my thoughts on TDOC and Urban? All right, let's take a look. All right, so I was playing around with TDOC here. So TDOC looks to be hitting former resistance level here right around the 165 area, maybe a little bit higher. 167 is right around where it's hitting right now. So it's not bad. It's not a bad spot for an entry here on TDOC. I would say, we're clearly making a recovery here after this dump post earnings. Found support here around this 134, 135 area and has bounced up since then. If it continues, then I think it definitely has the ability to do so. That being said, do note the fact that a lot of us are going back to in-person meetings now. So I question how much teledoc is going to be used in the future. Of course, during the whole Corona thing, it was really, really popular for that sort of need. But I'm questioning whether the need is really there right now. It looks like we had quite a lot of volume on Friday, actually, pushing into 5 million territory, so double the average volume here. And it managed, so it kind of tells me there's a lot of buying and selling going on, mostly a doji day here. So, I mean, I'm not huge into candle patterns, but or candlestick patterns, I should say, but it shows a lot of indecision in this area, coming into this 167.50. So I just be careful on this one. It's not a bad entry, I would say, but it's tricky. I'll say that with that rejection off of former support / resistance, that would lead me to believe that maybe we start coming back down a bit, which could be good for a potential entry for you. But it could also, if the market opens green in a big way on Monday, this thing could just go. So yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's not a terrible entry. I'll put it that way. All right, URBN. Hey, this one's on the breakout already. Looks like we pushed up here towards the previous high here around 42, we'll call it, and had a nice rejection off of that 42 area. I would be very careful with this one. The fact that it wasn't able to push through that 42 area with all this added volume that we had, almost double again, a lot of volume in the market on Friday. Probably when we hit that all-time high, if I had to guess. Overall, of course, the trend here on Urban Outfitters is looking good, definitely looking, positive. That being said, we've been kind of stuck in this channel here for quite some time. This 42 area seems to be really, really tough for URBN. Let's put that on the chart. Let's see if that hits anything back in the past. See if there's some historical significance to that number. Looks like we came pretty close here back in 18. And that's about it. A couple touches back here. So, definitely that 42 area seems to be a bit of a wall for it right now. It doesn't seem to be able to bust through it. So, I'm concerned that this might retrace a bit. I'm worried it may come back down here towards the moving averages before it starts pushing back up. And if you take it now, I'm worried you're going to be holding the bag for a while. That being said, again, just like your other one with Teledoc, if the market opens up big on Monday and we just start, barnstorming towards the sky, then we could definitely see a continued push on this. But right now, with what I'm seeing in the pattern in the chart right now, I would be a little cautious on entries on both of these because they weren't able to push through their previous support and resistance areas. That tells me there's a lot of selling going on in those areas right now, and it will take more than the volume we had to be able to push through it. Hey, no problem, Mike. Glad I could help you out. How can you tell the actual amount of volume looking at the trading view chart? Well, it's right here. So if you hover over a candle, I can't move the mouse right now, but if you look on the left side where it says Urban Outfitters Inc. and you go down about 5 or 3 lines, there's one that says VOL 20, and then it tells me the actual volume right there. So, Matthew, are you referring to the alerts that we post in Discord? So the designation of the profit targets, first off, don't necessarily get hung up on those numbers. So those are what we look at as potential areas where there may be, a good potential for the security to get there. With whichever direction we're trading in. And two, it's an area that we think might be a good spot to go ahead and exit. Now, there's not a specific mathematical formula that we're using to pick our profit targets. I'm not going to say that they're completely random, but if you basically what we're doing with the profit targets and the stop losses, we're looking at critical areas of support and resistance. We're looking at what we think is reasonable for the stock to do in a reasonable amount of time, and something that is not outside the realm of possibility. Like, let's say for this one here, for Urban Outfitters, I'm not going to put a profit target of $50 on this one. I don't think that there's any way that it's going to make that at any time soon. Of course, I say that and watch it; it'll hit it on Monday. But it's one of those things that we have to kind of do. It's more instinct based for us. Is really what it comes down to. Now, of course, Riz is posting most of the alerts at this point. And so he's pulling that based on his experience and his familiarity with the stock and support and resistance areas. Hey, Liam, no problem. Glad I could help you out with that. But yeah, that's how you do it. And you'll notice that also at the top in the green there on TradingView, it gives me the open, the high, the low, the close, and the move for the day. So for this one, for example, for Urban Outfitters on Friday, it opened at 40.81. High of the day was 42.10. Low was 40.56. Closed at 41.20. And it was $0.79 plus $0.79 on the day for a gain of 1.95%. So cool stuff here on TradingView that you can use to get exact numbers, and you can change these things. Also on the left side, you'll notice as I move to the left, the numbers will change for the day. That'll cover the moving averages, the volume, and all of the price points on there as well. All right, thoughts on EPD, Enterprise Products Partners. Ooh, this one's looking pretty juicy, isn't it? So if you want to look at possibly timing an entry, this looks like it could be a really good spot to do it. Now, the fact that it has held the 50 here multiple times, and if you look at this, is really respecting it, really respecting it, seems like a pretty decent spot for a potential entry. I'm curious what this rollover was for. It could just be a natural correction, but definitely a lot of additional volume here, at least 1 million more than usual, if not extra. But this one, yeah, looks pretty decent, honestly, all things considered. Really got smashed here in 2020, big surprise. But been on a nice uptrend and really looking like it's sitting on support here. So as far as an entry position is going to go, this is about as perfect as you can time it, in my opinion. Tori, this is a really solid entry if you want to go for this. So, Yas, I don't use the moving averages for, any specific thing. They're moving averages that I've always used, even back when I was day trading. I would be using these moving averages. So the 200 moving average represents 1 year's worth of price action typically, because on average there are 200 trading days in a year. So the simple moving average here represents basically 1 year's worth of price action. Is what we're looking at. So, you can use the 100 moving average, which would be half a year, and the 50, which would be, a quarter of a year, as you like. But I don't use them as like specific parameters like you're recommending, because it's a moving average. Okay. It's not like some magic fairy dust that says it must do this when it gets to that area. But, you do see things happening when you get to these moving averages. So it's like, you do see a lot of respect for the 50 here on EPD. If we go back to the S&P 500, we see some there as well. Really, it gets really close to these moving averages. Sometimes it just touches them and bounces back up. And to me, it seems like they're mostly an area for support and resistance. So, I mean, definitely the 200 is, like I mentioned earlier, it is highly respected by a lot of people, and a lot of algorithms are programmed around it. So you will see, and if you've have the ability to watch time and sales live on the market, one of the things I recommend, if you see something approaching the 200 simple moving average, just watch time and sales for a little bit and see what happens when you get there. The orders will just start pouring in. It is very interesting. Why did gold drop? FOMC. What's that abbreviation? I believe mostly the gold pullback was more of a bit of a correction, in my opinion. Of course, the fear of inflation is also going to affect that, in my opinion. But I mean, we're having a nice big dip in the market when this happened. The market was rolling over, so gold, though the Fed meeting, I don't think we really. Of course, for the most part, for the Fed meeting, it really was a non-issue. If you were like watching the market when the meeting was going on and after the meeting closed, there wasn't a whole lot moving. Not like we've seen in the past with other announcements such as interest rates and jobless reports and things like that. The market really didn't move too much after the meeting, and it dropped probably a little bit because, again, of the whole inflation thing. You have to understand, I mean, think about this, right? So gold is a physical commodity, but it's being measured here in dollars. So if we see more and more inflation, the price in theory should go up. That being said, if the Fed meeting came out like they're like, well, it's, everything is what we expected, and there was no big surprise, you could see people pulling out of gold at that point to get back into the market. Because, if people think if the price action basically has been baked in, is what we would say. It's like, for example, let's say, Disney. Let's look at Disney real quick. Let's say, for example, Disney releases a new Avengers movie or something like that. You may see the price action move here. Let's say it does really, really well and the numbers are coming out, and then we get to earnings season and it does nothing, even though earnings were just like spectacular and the movie did great, and ticket sales are just fantastic at Disney because the parks are opening back up. And you're like, well, why didn't it go to the moon, Chris? Well, because that's already been baked in. It's one of those things where it's like, if people are anticipating those things to happen, oftentimes you won't see a whole lot of movement, because the psychology of it is like, well, we knew that was going to happen. Why is it some big flipping surprise? So people aren't dumping, their shares. People aren't jumping in because they think it's going to go, $50 higher than where it is now. It's just everybody's like, okay, yeah, we kind of expected that. And what is really the thing. So, gold really didn't drop all that much after the meeting, looking at the price of gold here, because if I believe the meeting was on Tuesday, if memory serves, because Riz was on track day that day. And really pretty much a non-issue on Tuesday. So yeah, it may have dipped a little bit, but I mean, mostly gold at this point is just kind of holding steady right around the 1780 area. It's really consolidating pretty solid. So that is the deal with that. But guys, I want to thank everybody again for coming out here and spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. S&P 500 is on a roll. Bears are crying just like we like them. And no problem, Liam. Thank you everybody for coming out to these. I really appreciate it. And guys, look forward to seeing what happens in the market on Monday. And as always, we'll see you in Discord then. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. All right. We'll see you later, guys. Good night.